Hello, welcome back to the studio for another season of art making here at Time for Art. I'm Maria. This semester with my students in the classroom, we're looking at ancient art. We've already covered ancient Greece, and now we're getting into ancient Rome. And our first project is going to be about mosaics. Now mosaics have been around for a long time. Some of the earliest ones are found in ancient Mesopotamia, present-day Iraq, and they date back to about the 3rd millennium BC. But by the time they spread around the region of the Middle East and all the way up through the Mediterranean, ancient Greek artists got a hold of this art form and took it to the next level. But by the time of the Roman Empire, the Roman artisans really took it to a whole new level and really perfected the art form. And it continued to thrive through the Renaissance. And it saw a slight decline and then a reemergence in about the 18th, 19th century. And you can find mosaics everywhere. So what exactly is a mosaic? Well, I like to refer to it as mosaic painting because it is painting an image, only we're using little tiny pieces of something called tesserae. Tesserae can be made of anything. It could be ceramic, tile, glass, stone, pebbles, even shells. But in the classroom, we're going to explore this art form using cut up bits of paper on cardboard, and we're going to use glue to apply our tesserae, our paper tesserae, onto the paper. So if you're ready to get started to create something like this, grab your supplies and let's get started and make some art. To get started on your paper mosaic, you're going to need to gather your supplies. The first thing you're going to do is draw in your sketchbook your idea and then redraw it onto the pre-cut mat board that I have for you in the classroom. At home, you can use any kind of cardboard. Mine is an unusual size because I have this old frame in my studio that I wanted to use, so I cut my cardboard to be able to fit inside this frame. And the saint I've chosen is my patron saint. It's also the patron saint of the Dominican order, St. Mary Magdalene. And this icon I've always loved. This is an icon by the iconographer Robert Lentz. Because of the unusual size and shape, I decided to change things up a little bit on this icon. Other supplies you're going to need is what I call glue solution. It's just a mixture of half glue, half water to make it a little less thick, a little more thin so that you can work with this easily as you're creating your paper mosaics. Now you don't need a flat brush, you could use a round brush, that's fine. And after you have selected your image, you need to select the colors that you're going to be using in your mosaic. Now they're not going to be exactly the same as if you're copying someone else's artwork, or if you're thinking in terms of it has to be red, it has to be blue, it has to be this, that, or the other. What you want to do is go through the boxes of collage paper that I have in the art room, and if you're at home doing this, you can use any kind of paper that you have available. Once you've selected the colors that you're going to start with, you want to cut them into little pieces of what are called tesserae. Tesserae are little square pieces that we use to create mosaics. Now, to cut out individual tesserae for this project, you don't want it to take forever. So you want to cut long, thin strips about 1/4 of an inch wide. And when you get, say, 4 or 5 strips cut, you want to stack them together and then start snipping them into squares. Now some of them might be a little more triangular or rectangular. It's okay. We want them to be as uniform as possible, but they're going to be slightly off, and that's okay. Doesn't have to be perfect. Perfection sometimes is overrated. And of course, some of these pieces I'm going to have to cut smaller depending on where I'm using them in my image. I might have to take 1 or 2 pieces and cut them into small little pieces like that, or even into little triangles like that. And that's easily done as you're working through the mosaic, putting your tesserae into place. That I've prepared my tesserae, I'm ready to get started on the gluing. Now, you might think this is going to take forever, but my method is pretty fast. So you get your glue solution, decide where you're going to start, and apply the glue directly to an area you want to work on. Now, I haven't quite decided what I'm going to do with my background yet, so I haven't cut tesserae for that, so I'm not going to start there. I'm going to start maybe with the red. So I'm going to apply just a thin layer of glue where I need it, and then I'm going to start picking up little pieces with my brush. And I want to use pieces that are somewhat the same size, but I also want to pay attention to the what's called the andamento. Where you place these tesserae is important. What the andamento means is it's Italian for movement or course. So you place the tesserae close together. You don't want to overlap them. This is not like an earlier video I did a couple of years ago based on the artist Maria Barrio, where she is strictly doing collage with paper, so the papers are overlapping and covering the entire surface of the substrate. What we're doing here is placing the tesserae right next to each other. There might be a little bit of a crack, a little bit of a gap there in between the tesserae. But what we don't want to see is a lot of crosses and straight lines. We want the andamento to flow and follow the form that we're creating here. Now that piece overlapped a little bit, but I'm not too worried about that. Here and there it's not going to make much of a difference. We're not putting a mosaic in a church where everybody's going to notice. But I do want to try and create that flow, that linear flow that creates a sense of movement and also helps to really develop the form. Now I'm going to start using some of these other little pieces that have little bits of varying color in there as well. And again, that will help to kind of create a little visual excitement as well as movement and form. Sometimes they stick together. It's okay. And you can use a toothpick or tweezers if you want. I'm working on something very, very tiny here. So it might help to have some tweezers or a toothpick. I'll just use my fingernail. So you see what's going on here. Now the other thing about my method, where you apply the glue and then you pick up the little tesserae with the gluey sticky brush, that helps it to go fast. The other thing that I like to do is give it a light brush over top so that it helps to give them a nice smooth finish overall. And then when that glue dries, it'll give it a nice little sheen.